Hey, it's Natasha.
And Khalil.
And we are the co-hosts of
WokeNFree.
Thank you for tuning in to our 109th episode of WokeNFree. If you've been tuning in every week for WokeNFree Wednesday, you know that WokeNFree is all about being real and honest with each other and you. We talk about everything and anything important to us, you, the world, and nothing is off the table. This week, we are reviewing Hello Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea Handler's new Netflix documentary about white privilege. But before we dive deep into that subject and that yellow brick road of privilege, there's a couple of things we have to go through, aka welcome to Natasha's monologue.
Fun times ahead.
Yes. Let's forge ahead, guys. Okay. So if you are listening to this episode, we also hope that you not only are listening, but you have downloaded the episode through the Podbean app, because where is WokeNFree? We are hosted on Podbean. But of course, if you go to WokeNFree.com and you click on listen, you can see that we are on 25 different platforms, including Podbean. So you can catch us on iTunes, you can catch us on Spotify, you can catch us on iHeartRadio, you can catch us practically everywhere. So please listen and download. Of course, we greatly appreciate the support. Next, if you are, wherever you are listening, if you aren't already subscribed to the show, please do. We greatly need and appreciate your support for whatever platform you choose to listen to us on. So if you're catching us again on iTunes, on TuneIn, on Stitcher, on Google Play, on Spotify, on iHeartRadio, any of those platforms, please make sure you are subscribed to our channel, our podcast. We definitely really appreciate it. Next, we are not a dirty secret. Please share. Sharing is caring, guys. And if you haven't watched the Chelsea Handler Netflix special, then this will be definitely something to watch. But also, this conversation, I think, will hopefully help people in understanding why this was actually a really important documentary to make. And her spin and her approach to it is definitely very unique. And the people that she had in the program, very interesting conversations to be had. Sometimes you'll laugh, sometimes you'll scream. Sometimes you don't know what to say, but nonetheless, it's a conversation to be had. So please make sure you share this with your friends, family, strangers. Scream WokeNFree out the window if you must. Next, we definitely would love to hear from people on social media. We already appreciate all of you, WokeNFree Nation, rocking with us and sharing comments and liking our stuff. But if you guys have breaking news, if you have topic ideas and you just want to shoot us a message on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even YouTube at WokeNFree, please do. We greatly look forward to hearing from you. And then, of course, on the platforms that you're listening to us, right? iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio. If you want to review the show, we would greatly appreciate your support. So please take a couple of minutes, give us a review, tell us what you think about the show. And you never know, we might shout you out in an episode. All right, guys?
As you know, each week we like to share a little bit about us before we dive into the topic for the episode. Last week we shared, would you rather write and have a best-selling book published or star in a hit blockbuster movie? This week we're asking, barbecue season's almost over. What do you want to grill? Something old or something new?
So this question's interesting. Like, I wasn't sure if you were like being literal and you're like old meat or or new meat. So I want to preface my answer by suggesting I want fresh meat.
That's pretty obvious.
I'm not a fan of salmonella or E. coli poisoning, but I do want to grill something that I'm used to. So something old in the sense of, because barbecue season is almost over, except for the people who live in Arizona. Booyah.
Yeah.
I suspect we'll be barbecuing for several more weeks. And I think ultimately for me, I'm a creature of habit. So if I find something yummy and I know exactly how I want it, give it to me that way each and every time until I cannot eat anymore. So something old with fresh meat. Your answer, please.
I don't care if the meat's old or new.
Okay.
I just want it to be traditional style. I don't want to have flaming octopus on my grill.
Oh, Jesus. Do people do that?
Yeah. People
no
grill
shade,
a lot of
guys,
things.
no
yeah,
shade,
that's, especially in the East.
I'm just not, my
Eastern
palate
cultures
isn't
like that.
Isn't that, what is that? Sophisticated.
Well, yeah, you're more of a squid person.
Excuse you.
Calamari.
Excuse you. Try mac and cheese and ribs. With a side of watermelon.
And you're an escargot lady, I know that.
Absolutely not.
You like all these weird foods.
Snails should exist in earth, not in people's mouths.
Well, crickets are good too, right?
Moving on.
But not for me, because I just go for the steak and maybe burgers and hot dogs.
And you're open to old meat.
Yeah, it could be old or new. I don't. As long as if it's old, it better be discounted. Like the butcher said, all right, there's a discount on this meat because you only got a certain time to cook it.
Because remember, out of house.
No, remember,
you can't take the house.
You got to remember that as long as you cook that meat good, the bacteria will die and you'll be fine.
As you tell all the people who ate bad meat.
Nah, but they didn't cook it well though. If you cook it good enough, you'll be all right.
Char it till
if you have raw, if you have it medium, you better have good meat. But if you have old meat, then you better make it well done and black and nasty. So it's better to probably get the fresh. And then you don't have to worry. You can't say that. Can't say that on this show. That's banned. That is banned. That is not our intro.
I wonder what the first question is.
That is not our intro, though. I just want to make that clear to everybody. Our intro is actually a question, and that's how we get started with the show.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you better be ready for it.
I am.
This one's going to be scary, though, for some people. Does white privilege exist? It's a scary thing to even propose, right?
Hold on to your panties, ladies.
Can't even bring that up in some circles.
According to tolerance.org, Frances E. Kendall, author of Diversity in the Classroom and Understanding White Privilege, Creating Pathways to Authentic Relationships Across Race, comes close to giving an encompassing definition. So essentially, as defined in the article on tolerance.org, he says, having greater access to power and resources than people of color in the same situation do. But the article goes on to suggest that in order to grasp what this definition really means, it's important to consider how the definition of white privilege has changed over time. And so if you click on all articles referred to, guys, in the episode, it can be found at WokeNFree.com. So make sure you make your way over there so you can see it yourself. But in order to grasp what this definition really means, it's also important to consider how the definition of white privilege has changed over time. So if you want to read more and learn more about what this concept of white privilege is, according to tolerance.org, definitely click on the link at WokeNFree.com so you can read away. But my personal 2 cents on the matter, as not being a white person, but I am mixed, and I have that in my heritage. Sadly, because I present as a black person, I personally have not been able to benefit from white privilege.
So now you present as a black person, okay.
Well, I mean, what I'm suggesting is when I say present is people don't know what you are until you really explain it to them. So,
yeah.
But based on the skin color you present in this world, people make assumptions, right? And they assume that you are this or that. So I think everyone's presenting as something until you have a conversation, and then you find out, oh, you are African in Egypt, or you're, black in Mexican, right? Like there's so many different variations of what we are all made up of. Even though, yes, if you understand your history, we all are black and we all come from Africa. That's a whole separate episode. Yeah. But to pay detailed attention to what white privilege is, I couldn't agree more with this phrasing of having greater access to power and resources than people of color do in that same situation. So essentially, white privilege isn't about saying that white people aren't working hard to get what they have in this world. I absolutely don't agree with that. I think that's the issue. Working hard is not a race thing. That's just what someone has inside of them to make sure what they can do and what they want to do in this world. But what I do think is the resources and less roadblocks that white people have simply because of the color of their skin is what they are failing to realize is white privilege. And so it's challenging because it forces them to look at themselves, and I think it makes it a very uncomfortable self-reflection period, which is why I think it's kind of a taboo topic, and it's kind of something that people challenge and don't even actually acknowledge as a real thing.
I think it's hard for them to self-reflect though if they don't see the opposite end. It's kind of like
exactly.
If you're just experiencing your experience. You're not seeing what other minorities are going through, how it compares to you. You have no idea how you even have the privilege. You just see it as everybody has it,
well,
right?
if everybody
around you
is having the same privilege as you, then you don't see it as a privilege.
So you can't even, you won't even know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even know that there's anything less.
And that's also the issue that we have in this world, that we have white only or 99% only communities where because they don't have contrast, because they don't see difference, then they don't see this as a real concept. This seems like fake news to them, which is talked about in the Chelsea Handler Netflix documentary, which is why you guys definitely should check it out. And the link will be in the episode for you to take a look a little bit more to understand why this is such an interesting topic. What are your thoughts, Noah?
I think the a thing that has to be thought about in terms of the white privilege is, before even getting to the privilege word, is just thinking about what's happening today, and that one group is being oppressed. And just because of that, just by default, you have one that will be privileged because they're not facing the same oppression. So they're not being brutalized by the police. Their neighborhoods aren't being stalked for crimes that don't exist. Their neighborhood is being let off for little crimes that their children commit. They're not like going and being tried as adults. They're getting less sentencing. All that stuff is happening.
A lot of implication.
When you have one group that's being mistreated, of course, that makes the other group, since they're not being mistreated, we have to have a name for that. And that's why we call that a privilege. It's a privilege for you not to be mistreated. Like, people don't want to think of it like that. They want to think of it like, that's our right. We shouldn't be being treated a certain way. No, but if you are literally in life having people that are oppressed, then some people are privileged because they don't have the oppression. So I think that's what has to be thought about, that you might hate the word, but people are being oppressed. Either, like, you can look at the numbers, we see that, and you can, it's like,
it's already documentable. It's not a feeling.
This is not just something like just happenstance. There's no happenstances. This is actual, what's going on right now. It's not like this is the past. We're not in a post-racial America. That's not true. We're not in a post-racial world.
Multiple races,
it's not true.
That whole post and
it
doesn't
apply. Post-racism
to
was supposed to be once we had our first black president. Then it said, "Oh, now we're post-racist."
No, that just means we opened up opportunities, but
opportunities
for
open
our
more.
Community. But we still are living in a country where there's oppression and where there's privilege. And Tim Wise, I believe that's his name. He talks greatly on this and very articulate about the concept of what white privilege is as a white man. And he shares kind of, for the 50-odd years he's been living, what it means to be an ally, what it means to acknowledge your privilege, and what the problem is when white people as a whole do not acknowledge it.
The first step is
so
admitting.
Shout out to him and he, a great author, several books that we definitely have to take a look at and read and listen to his audiobooks, because he seemed like he had a really woke approach
Definitely,
to the concept of white privilege and the inequities happening in this country.
I want to find more of his stuff to see what he's going. I want to see the details.
But he was interesting. I was very fascinated by his contribution to the documentary, for sure.
Yeah, he was really candid and open about his thoughts, and they were actually enlightening. They weren't just the run old statements that we hear. Absolutely. So, based on being that we both watched the documentary, why do you think some of the white people that Chelsea spoke with really, struggled with acknowledging or even accepting that white privilege exists? I think it's almost like what you brought up before about people doing hard work, and when you do hard work and you get benefits from it, you feel anybody else who does the same will get the same as you, right? You feel like it's a straight up math equation. I put in X work, I get Y for my result. Everybody will do that. Just work hard and it'll work out for you. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's not actually true. And it ignores that not all people are entitled even to the same resources. Yes. Because you might just say, I grew up with 3 tablets or something, but that's not regular for everybody. No. Not everybody has a nanny. Not everybody has a tutor. Not everybody has somebody in law enforcement that gets them off of that marijuana charge, stuff like that. It's not everybody has those same resources, and some people have more of those resources than others. So that's what they fail to realize. If they literally go back through their lives and pick out every different event and look at how that occurred and people involved with it, I think then maybe But then you have to also compare it to the alternative, because if you don't know the alternative, you don't understand that other people don't have those same situations.
Yeah.
They don't have all the resources you do have. They don't have a school that's looking out for the best of you. They don't have things like that.
Yeah.
That won't let you fail. That's not what everybody has. So I think the problem is just, it's like a selfish problem. When I grew up like this, I didn't know anybody else had it differently. Everybody around me grew up the same. So it's one of those type of mentalities. You don't really know the other side, and you don't choose to speak to the other side because you say, hey, they're like me. If they want to speak, they can speak to me. I don't have to speak to them first. So, they're just removed from the situation, really, even though they're part of the problem by not acknowledging it.
Absolutely. So I think that the issue, there's a couple of things at play here. I couldn't agree more with you about this, hard work situation and people feeling like they aren't earned. How dare you question whether I earned my success or not? And again, I think those are two separate conversations. Working hard and achieving success, no one is going to fault. Well, decent people aren't going to fault you for that. The issue is more what you're pointing to, which is resources. Not everyone has the same resources in this country, nor have they had the same resources ever in this country. So that is why there absolutely is a delineation between how Black people grew up in this world and how did we even arrive here, right? Like, it depends on how far you want to go back.
But they're going to say, get over that. You have equal rights now. You can
yes,
vote.
but when were the civil rights laws put into place? In the 60s, right? Like, so, and how long has this country been around, right? Like, so that's why it's challenging. And you hear, for me, I heard some really stomach turning conversations when Chelsea's speaking to various people, because, there are statements that were said in the documentary about like, well, what do people who don't know how to argue or debate do? They flip the script and they put it on you. So when asked, well, is there white privilege? No, well, look at what the Blacks have, right? That's not answering the question. That's going on a whole separate thing. And I think that flipping the switch is not how you answer a question. Address your narrative. And I think that a lot of white people go into that narrative of like, oh, well, Black people have this. Answer your question.
But you could try to use that because you say Blacks have this and we have it too, so we're equal. Can't you say that? That could be the kind of thought process. You can't
have it equal, because the problem is so what they did in the documentary is, oh, well, Black people have the right to go to college. They get automatic admission into college.
Oh,
that's a false statement, first of all.
Yeah,
and then secondly, yes, schools do give a helping hand to people of color. Why? How many years were Blacks and brown people
just
not allowed to go
denied.
to college? Literally couldn't attend college in this country. Even our college, Penn State. I don't believe Black people could attend it when it first was founded. And even to this day,
the oldest schools didn't allow Blacks.
You can only have a fraternity or sorority when the school was founded. Well, women weren't allowed to attend school, so there are no sorority houses at Penn State, and you have like dorms,
and there's
but
no
it's
Black
not,
fraternities.
And there's no Black fraternity because they weren't allowed to go to school at that time.
So even that is a privilege then, that you can have a certain type of
organizations and all the resources that come out of fraternities and sororities are huge. Like, so it depends. You have to have an intelligent conversation that really, you have to be able to articulate your history.
You got to dig deeper than affirmative action. Like that's because people like to go back to that. Like, affirmative action makes it.
It was created because there was literally a denial of access. So it is to try to undo, but you cannot undo what happened in the past. You can only help support the future. And that's where people are misunderstanding, and they think we're benefited by that. Or the statement that was made about, oh, well, Black, companies have to hire a certain amount of people of color, which is not, that's a quota.
It's not true.
There's
you can't do that.
constitutional
It's
issues
illegal,
with that. Yeah, absolutely. But what companies do is they have a diversity inclusion program. Why? Because it has been proven that the work product and the work culture behave better when you have diverse minds, whether that is man, woman, brown, Black, yellow, anything. Like, so again, there's a lot of miseducation because people aren't having these deep conversations on a daily basis, right? We're too busy, figuring out which chicken sandwich to eat. So, or shoot up and try to get, right? Like, there's all this drama with chicken. I don't understand I don't, that's beyond me. But, so I think
chicken ain't easy.
Listen, it is hard out here for these chicken lovers.
The chicks,
the other thing is also, I think that there might be some type of uncomfortability of even just calling them out, right? Like white people, because again, what's interesting is I think people of color are used to constantly wearing that as our like coat of armor, where it's like, you're a black person, you're a black person. But I don't think white people normally get identified as like, that's, I don't think.
You would go by their country.
Like, well, that, but then also I feel like they're also just like, I'm Jane, I'm Adam. Like, but
you're saying that's
black
not
people
true.
are done, it's like, Black Jane, black, like, it just seems like it's a part of our identity identifier. I don't think people say white Adam.
No, but what they would think of is, all right, first, that's just Adam without any.
Yeah, that's just Adam.
There's no extra words to it.
You're Black Khalil. I'm Black Natasha.
But I think they still do have a self-identity. Like, it's kind of like they don't like to be grouped as white. They'd rather be grouped as like
origin.
Yeah,
I'm German. I'm
Irish, Italian.
Yeah,
they hate the white.
See, that's not really
because white is kind of like the enemy.
For them,
yeah, because white kind of means like, oh, you're the persecutor. You're the
because there's a lot of negative narrative that goes around.
Yeah, there definitely is
around that. So they're able to. So that also is kind of probably very uncomfortable for them. This idea of just white privilege, but you're de-announcing the importance and significance of being German, Irish.
Yeah, so it's taking away
Italian,
that from them too, their heritage.
And that's extremely important to them.
They don't want the heritage.
And that's a privilege too. I mean, Tiffany Haddish talks about, when Chelsea Handler speaks to Tiffany in the documentary, and she talks to Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish gets really choked up about the idea that like, there's a white privilege in even knowing who you are, because again, look at the African American narrative. Most black people in this country, unless they do some type of test, do not know where they come from. So they've lived how many years and how many generations of just being black, not knowing where you come from?
We don't know when we even got here.
Exactly.
Like, people ask, so when did you get to America?
And then even that, we don't even know the connection to Africa. Like, were your ancestors like Tiffany says, were they farmers or were they kings and queens? Like, we don't know
which ones we were, yeah.
Like, and both of us, we have a Caribbean, we had a pit stop in our slave narrative, Jamaica and Guyana, but, even that, I don't know what my ancestry is in Africa. I barely even know what they were in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a privilege even knowing you're Italian and German, and that's a huge privilege, because
it's nice to know your history.
How can you go forward if you never know what you came from? It's a challenge.
It's helpful to know your past. Now, what is the benefit of actually accepting the white privilege actually exists?
So I think there's a couple of things there. I think for white people who are interested in being an ally to a black and brown person, I think that accepting white privilege is a huge step towards being an ally, because when you accept your white privilege, you can self-reflect, and then you can see how, what has come in your life from that narrative and from that privilege. And then when people talk to you, and because again, with struggle, it's hard to explain it. You just have to live it, right? Like, you can't teach someone what it means to struggle. And like, you and me both know what it is to have no heat in our home. But you
can teach it.
Can you really explain that to someone?
Yeah, you can, if you like
take off the heat.
No, but if you like how we have history books that talk about things, if you have continued history,
it, though they won't know the feeling of what it feels like to.
You don't know the feeling, like you're not going to get the emotional thing. But I mean, if you drill it into people, you keep bringing up in media,
they can memorize it, they can talk about it,
make movies about it too.
But they can't feel it though.
No, they're never going to feel it, but I'm just saying, like, in reference to other events in history, how we make such a big deal about it, we can do the same thing with this.
We can have movies over and over
we can have a museum dedicated to it to really show people what's going on. It can exist in the place where it started.
Khalil. Yes, Khalil.
In one of the original slave trade docks in New York, they can have the museum there.
Khalil.
Yeah, I'm just saying, we can have a whole momentum to them, a memento. Where people can go and really know. We can
honor our history every single year, just as other horrors are honored every single year. But it is a true point that, who here, WokeNFree Nation, do you know how many slaves were killed in the slave trade, right? Like, do you know how many slaves it took to run a plantation? Like, there's a lot of history that we don't know. And so, yes, by people acknowledging white privilege, I think they can look back and look at their own history, and then also look at how their counterparts have fared without that privilege. And we did do a previous episode. Yeah, there is black privilege. There are privileges.
We talked about different types of privileges.
Yeah, it's not, there's a privilege as a woman, there's a privilege as a man. Every identifier comes with privilege, but white privilege is significant because it
comes
also
with wealth, right?
creates
wealth.
Yes, but it also creates the subjugation of others. And that's where they don't like to speak on that. But that's the issue, right? Tim Wise said, for someone to be up infers that someone has to be down.
So it's like the stock market.
So, yeah, right? Like, think about the Dow, right, Jones? If some stocks are up, then are all the stocks up? No, some are down. And so that's the issue. I think if you do acknowledge that white privilege exists and it exists in your life, I think you have a bit more sympathy and empathy for those without it, because you can say, wow, like, yeah, it was really easy for me to get this job, or it was really easy for me to right? You know, as someone who has been Black my entire life, right, it has been interesting to see how that has been challenged and questioned and mocked right in my face, where I don't think that would have happened to me if I was a non-brown or Black person, right? And so, you know, when someone is willing to acknowledge that, like that happens.
What did they mock, you saying?
Being Black, you know, like,
but other whites get mocked too. They get bullied too for stuff. You could be
either
bullied for sexuality.
I don't know if they get bullied for their white privilege though, or like,
no, not for the privilege, but it could be like your parents have less money.
Yeah, so poverty is a equalizer, right? Like, it totally takes out, and that's also why poor white people will challenge white privilege, because they're like, I'm poor, I'm the same as you. Not quite.
No, we can't both go through Mississippi, right?
Exactly. Well, wait a minute now.
Oh, we both can. Okay.
Shout out to Nina Simone for Mississippi, goddamn. Just watched another wonderful Netflix documentary. Guys, watch the Nina Simone documentary. I'll put that in the link just because that's awesome.
Hey there. Do you have a book that you want to share with the WokeNFree Nation? Are you a business owner looking to share your product or service with the podcasting world? Well, guess what? You can book an ad with us on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. We're super excited to speak with you about curating a unique ad that will get your message across the WokeNFree platform. So go to the Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com, because WokeNFree is more than a podcast. It's a way of life and offers an innovative way to promote your platform in the exploding podcasting space.
So wait a minute. We can't just outrightly say you can't go through a state.
Then, okay.
I'm suggesting that Mississippi has challenges, right? Mississippi Burn Aids, like it's,
now you say this.
Challenges.
Now you say this, man.
There have been challenges, but that's not the state. That's the clan, right? Like, so that's, you know, clan culture in this country is an interesting.
Yeah, but hopefully it shouldn't control the whole state, though.
Yeah, sure. The history, guys. We have to go back to history. But the only other thing I would add to that is, if you accept white privilege, the benefit of that is that you have a better understanding of the world you're living in. You're not so oblivious. Like Chelsea Handler mentions the fact that, and I don't know why she didn't get this, but she used to do drugs with her boyfriend when she was like in high school. She was apparently like a badass, and they got caught with drugs like 3 times. And every single time the police officer was like, get your behind out of here. And he went away to jail, and he ended up losing a college scholarship, spending 14 years in prison. And, you know, she talked about how when those events were happening, she thought like she was being let go because she had a great personality. Okay.
That's so crazy. That's crazy.
At what point do you have a great personality, Chelsea Handler?
Like, that's crazy. You think like that.
I love you, but you're snarky as like you're out of control.
The personality. Yep.
But it's like, how could she not have acknowledged that there was obviously inequity that was happening? Because she was a white woman.
Yeah, because guess why? The cop never said, all right, Black man, because you're Black, you going to jail.
So, yeah.
White girl, you get off because you're white. No one ever says it in those words. They don't make it so clear. But you have
to be able to
So as a child, and she's on drugs too. She doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
So she has like a messed up perspective, right?
She was not in her right state of mind.
So you got to think that's at play too.
But it's interesting that she lived through that, and it still at that time was unable to identify what was happening.
Really happened, yeah.
Later in life, she was able to, right?
Yeah,
she did this documentary.
Some people don't.
You know, that's great. And then I guess the only thing you could do is similar to what Chelsea's doing, which is, as an ally, try to find ways to equal the playing field, right? So if you identify that there's inequity happening in the workplace, in culture, in business, in ... fill in the blank, what can you do, right? We can do more than a documentary, right? We can, when we're hiring for production, maybe you have 25% of your staff brown and black people, right? Maybe you, when giving back to organizations, you think about black and brown, serving organizations serving those communities to support. Why don't you build scholarships, build schools, right? Like there are ways that you can equal the playing field. And again, do what? Give resources to a community that is ongoingly not having the same each and every day. So, those are some of the benefits. What are some of the benefits you think?
I mean, yeah, once white people can just accept that it actually exists, I think it's them that can actually undo the system, because as people of color, we don't technically control it. It's them that are, it's their system. We're just living in it. We're not just like, hey, you know what? You have a little bit more privilege than us. That's not like that. We're living our lives and we're just getting less for doing the same things that you do, basically. So we can do just as much work as you and get a third of what you get for the same amount of work. And that's, not great. But if you can come along and realize that that's actually happening, maybe you can stop that and just, play fair, have everybody playing on the same field and not being treated unjustly and not paid the same for doing the same work too. And I think when you do that, I think more people will be just happy with that. So you'll have, to me, it'll lower like even crime and stuff, because you won't have to really do it, because your family now can support all your children because you're getting paid just like everybody else. There's no, less resources. And same thing with education, like you're saying. If our systems are even, then kids have more time to learn more about, the field that they're interested in, instead of trying to figure out how to get food on the table. They're like, oh, I can actually learn because I have that. I have the resources. They're actually there. There's something to help me. And then I think the main thing that comes from this is like unifying, at least for America, it would unify the country, because now people can't say, hey, I feel like this is happening, or look what you're like. There's no arguments to be had now when we're both on the same field and we're making things, you're making things right for everybody. Then people can't, it's something that less to hear about, right? You'll never hear somebody say, oh man, you're getting that and I'm not. It'll be like, wait, we're both getting paid the same amount of money. So what are you talking about?
Oh yeah. When you reduce inequity, it becomes a lot more peaceful. Yeah.
Now people have less to complain about. That goes out the window.
But you have to just wonder, violence. And this is why I always question with our society, which
what do we want?
Well, like there's someone who's going to lose money when this happens, right? When you change the field and you say, oh, everyone has the same type of resources in school, everyone has the right to live in the same neighborhoods. There's a cost to that. Who's bucking that cost? Because that person obviously is not going to be on board with that, right? Because otherwise why are we still in
the cost system? Could be that now everybody has to work hard. It's not automatic.
Is that something everyone wants?
No, everybody doesn't want that.
Okay,
of course
then.
not.
And so
there is
there's profitability to inequity.
There is
what I'm suggesting. And so, yes, America is the land of the great and the free, but it depends on who's the free and who's the great, right?
But but it's a balance though, because it's kind of like you can only oppress people for so long, because even the great Roman Empire fell. So
all empires fall.
Yeah. So and it's because of that. It's that balance. They never figure out how to like wade off that greediness.
Greed. Greed
you gotta,
is the answer.
You gotta see it coming. You gotta be like, wait a minute. How is everybody doing? You gotta have more empathy, I think.
But I mean, America's been running this game for quite a long time.
Not that long. It's not
400 years of slavery.
But America hasn't been around longer than even the Roman Empire, I don't think.
Definitely not. But the Roman Empire, wasn't it like 1,000+ years or something like that? Yeah, it's a long time.
I don't know. They were around for a long time.
But so America's a young country,
and
so one could argue that
they can turn it around.
We can still be molded and grow, but it's challenging, right? Like,
seeing it now it's challenging, but guess what? 1,000 years ago, it was challenging seeing it too from the point of a slave point of view.
Would have never thought that we probably would have been.
They're saying that Barack thing, that's a fake. They're like, that's not real.
Yeah, they would be like, that's
they're like, you're not showing us real stuff.
I know
you never even knew that.
We could ever have a black president.
You were like Tupac. You believed his belief.
Yeah, because to me, this country just seemed like they just weren't interested in it, right? And they just weren't interested in having a change of what?
Because I didn't think about this, but. It's not, I guess it's an interesting question to pose, but is white privilege less strong than it was 1,000 years ago?
Well, so in the article, it talks a little bit about white privilege through the history and through the change.
Isn't it like less? I think it's... Because this thing, automatically, because before, you were called a human and other people weren't even considered humans.
I would say it's less in some
People
regard, but then
consider
again,
that.
remember, racism is subtle and institutionalized in other
Well,
forms.
racism,
So
yeah.
but no, overall, I would say,
Overall,
I
it's
think
actually
it is less. Yeah.
like we
So
have to
that's
admit
why
that
they
there
struggle. Well, that's why you
there's
have
progress.
white poor people, white like
there is progress for white privilege. We can't just take it all and be like, oh man, white privilege has been growing stronger with years and years.
No.
It's actually, I think it's getting
decreased,
weaker.
yeah.
It's decreasing.
Because they've like you said, you can't do something forever.
Yeah,
People
you
will
can't.
riot and
It's gonna take
burn down the
society.
houses.
Yeah.
So I think they acknowledged, that
There was
things
changes,
had to change,
and things changed through rioting too.
and through this, and through this country and through law, right? There are
Through
things
law,
that
yeah.
prevent
Things had to change,
people
so.
from just being buck wild and just being like, no, I want to make as much money at any means necessary. Like, yeah.
With no regard to human life. Yeah.
Woohoo!
Well, I think it's that time. It is scenario time. Scenario 1. Beatrice grew up in an okay suburb where everyone had a 2-car garage and even paved streets. She's an honor student who studies all the time and is on her high school lacrosse team. She tells her friends that all her success is due to hard work and doesn't understand why others don't bring themselves out of their poverty. Is she right in her thinking?
That's a very interesting question. So I grew up middle class in Lower East Side of Manhattan and, by 2 Caribbean people who definitely preached to me over and over again the power of working hard and achieving as much as you can, but also acknowledging that there are roadblocks being a person of color in this country. And, it was always, what was interesting is there was this attitude that I feel like immigrants have when they come over here, which is this attitude that like, it's so much, it can be sometimes so much harder in other parts of the world that like they don't understand when people, especially people of color, are poor here or are not necessarily quote unquote doing the best that they can do. Like, so they're getting caught up in the drug and, kind of doing drugs and getting, committing crime and not really taking advantage of the opportunities that immigrants across this world would love to have access to. But as I have gone through life and experienced poverty myself, I would say that it's not like, so it's interesting. So if you follow the law of attraction, poverty, yes, like anything else, is a choice,
Yeah.
which is a rough statement
Careful.
for people.
You're pissing some
It
people
is
off.
a rough, I understand, but everything, if you believe that life is a choice, then you have to believe that the circumstances within life are a choice.
Not
So-
everybody believes that. They believe
so
that
not everyone
they
does.
believe that they
Yeah.
can blame all their problems on other people.
Of course. And I could be a unicorn if I wanted to, but it's a choice. I choose to present as human. So I choose not to be a unicorn today.
Okay.
So let's go with that premise. Then if poverty is a choice, then can you get out of it? Yes. And in theory, you can, but you also need what? You need the support of, life in the sense of not having so many roadblocks in your way where you're trying and you're not getting anywhere. You also have to probably stop doing self-destructive behaviors. You also probably have to change who you're spending time with. You have to probably learn, maybe even go on, getting additional educational resources, whether it's through your own learning or through a college or master's program. So there's a lot of steps necessary, but
Those
you
are
have
nice
to.
privileges that you mentioned too.
Yeah, these are all
the privileges to be able to do that and to be safe in your own home.
Yeah, of course. So is it
Yeah.
easy? No. But is it doable? Yes. Does everyone believe that it's doable? No.
That's the question.
And
yeah.
that's why
They
poverty
don't think
will
so.
stand. Because if you don't believe that you can change your circumstance, then your circumstance will never change.
That's the
right.
truth,
And
yeah.
so
And
that's
that's either
why
way,
people
yeah.
are in poverty and impoverished.
You have to at least
in
know
this
there
world.
is
You have
a
to believe in
possibility,
change,
right?
and not everyone believes in possibility. They say they do, but they don't.
Yeah, they
right.
don't,
Because
yeah.
they'll try and they'll fail, and then they'll go and
Because
get
they
that
see it
40,
wasn't.
and they're like, "See, I try out here in these streets."
Because here's what I say: did you try 1,000,000 times?
Exactly.
Oh, 1,000,000. Well, all right. Then for sure it's not possible. You did 1,000,000 times. That's it.
One
1,000,000.
But
though.
even that, in theory, 1,000,001 might have done it for you.
It could have, yeah.
So in
But-
theory, whenever
yeah.
you are the person, and I've heard this be said to me, I did everything I could. Not true. It's never true, loves. We want it to be true. We desperately
did everything
need
you
it
wanted
to
to
be
do.
true. But we did everything we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And we did everything that we felt like we should do. But do we know everything? No.
No.
Do we know everyone? No. So there's always things we can do. So it's a choice, guys. I know that's rough. I know that's rough because listen, I've been in poverty. You've been in poverty. We've dealt with it, but it's a choice to be in it and it's a choice not to be in it. And her statement is coming out of ignorance and not even empathy, because it's like, instead of questioning why people are in poverty, her question should be, what could you do to help a disenfranchised family? Because, it's easy to sit out here in these streets and judge. It's easy to call names, but what are you doing to make a damn difference? I'm tired of having conversations with people in my life who all they want to do is judge and assess, and they never really want to fricking give back. Shut your trap hole if you have nothing to do other than judge and assess, because they don't need your judgment. Those people don't need your hurt. It's just hurtful.
Yeah, it's pointless to do.
What do you think? Is she right? Is she ignorant? Is she foolish? Is she white privileged? All three, all four, living their life.
It's definitely a case of white privilege and not knowing what other people have to go through. Because the key, it's like, whenever they see and hear about gang violence, they don't understand the basics of why the gangs existed.
Exactly.
That gangs are a family. Gangs were a way that you could put food on the table.
Yeah.
They're literally how you paid the bills, because guess what? These other jobs weren't hiring you.
Yeah.
These other people weren't giving you a chance.
Absolutely.
You went to school and it was kind of like a circular system. The teachers didn't care about you. There's people who weren't there to learn and they kind of didn't let you learn. So there's a lot of other issues going on. Not everybody has the same existence. So you got to come from the mind point that people have a different life. You can't just say, I have this, everybody else can have this. No, I mean, people come from different viewpoints. They were raised differently. They think differently. So yeah, I think this is just her needing to go and see what's actually going out in the world.
Go live in one of those, shanties.
That's what you like to call it, yeah. Come on now.
It's scary. Shanties can be scary. Hello.
All right. Scenario 2. Ashley has a very successful pastry business, which allows her to travel and meet new people. Sometimes she gets into arguments over how she became successful. She mentions how not all blonde women are stupid, and everyone has equal opportunity to succeed now. Is Ashley delusional, or does she make a fair point?
Wowzers. Yeah. Okay. So we're back to Becky now. Okay. Interesting. Oh, Becky.
This is just a blonde Ashley.
Yes, Becky.
Oh, come on. Becky was a long time ago. Many, many scenarios ago was a Becky mentioned.
She's Becky. Oh. And so Beyonce said it, so it has to be true.
All right.
So, Miss Ashley, I am absolutely sure, based on the few sentences read, that...
No, you can't say that. That's unfair. That is too
based
unfair.
on the limited scoop of knowledge available to me at this moment.
Not limited. You had all the facts you needed.
I would suggest, I'm of the suggestion that I believe Ashley probably has worked hard for her business. She's probably very proud of her business, and it's downright condescending to tell her that she didn't work hard for the success she's had. But however, as witnessed on Shark Tank multiple times, that depending upon, what gender you're presenting in front of, or...
This is speculation, though.
Yes, speculation.
This is speculation at this point. You don't have the numbers.
Speculation.
All right, this is what you speculate.
There are certain people that when they present, people do get giddy when their hair is blowing in the wind and their boobs are bouncing in the air, that somehow this person is a delightful presenter. And, there's a privilege that comes with having breasts. I have them. I understand.
Nice.
There's a privilege with being feminine. There's a privilege of being pretty, right? And what comes with that. And you can look at studies. More attractive people have easier times getting jobs. They have easier times getting loans.
People were bad about the criminal who was like a model. They were like,
he was gorgeous.
He couldn't have done the crime. They said,
Lord,
people said this guy didn't commit a crime just because of his looks.
He got a modeling career out of it. He's like mad famous now. Yeah. Because he's pretty. There's a privilege that comes with being attractive in this world. Wow. So does it supersede the fact that she's probably a knowledgeable baker and pastry maker? No, it doesn't supersede it. But you can't say that everything that she's achieved in the business is somehow separate from the fact that she presents as an attractive blonde woman, right? Like you gotta call a spade and own it, right? I think it makes you a better human if you can be like, I worked my angles, right? And when you wore that tight pencil skirt and you bent over and you somehow got that business loan, hey, it is what you... It is what you did. Now, if that didn't happen, that's not your narrative. And your narrative was, I worked hard, I shared the numbers, and it just made business sense. Whatever the narrative is. So sadly, when whatever you're presenting is a part of that narrative. People,
definitely.
You can't separate it with people. Unfortunately, you just can't. So maybe they wanted to support her business because she was a great businesswoman. Maybe they wanted to sleep with her. You don't know. We can't read minds. So, it's hard to know, but you can't absolutely say
She's
for
part
certain
of the equation,
that her presentation wasn't a part of it. You can't
it's definitely
deny that. But hopefully it is based on the numbers and based on the fact that she's a great businesswoman. It is 2019. Get it together.
But just imagine if she wore a Michael Myers mask on all her business meetings.
Then
I think she'd get less deals.
Exactly, right? Because what are you presenting as? Someone who's troubled. Someone who's challenged in some way or form. So now, do you want to invest in that? I know I wouldn't. I would.
You would invest in that person? I would look at their numbers and I wouldn't care what
I
would
immediately run.
You would run if they were wearing the mask.
Because I watch Halloween every single year. Shout out to Michael Myers. And
as long as she doesn't talk.
What's his name? Mustafa. What's his name? The man. Oh gosh, the director and he made all the Halloween. Well, most of the Halloween. I love. Shout out to him. Yes.
You just have to put that in the notes.
I'll have to put it in the notes. Yeah.
So I think she's definitely delusional. That blonde definitely helped her out in this.
Hey, Becky.
It made her look more attractive to some people, and people probably did want to date her and stuff just from seeing her looks.
Maybe.
That's you made a good point. People like people that look good, so I think she used her looks to help get her success, and can't deny some of that.
But it doesn't supersede that she couldn't, in her own right, be a great businesswoman.
Yeah, she could have, but not with the Michael Myers mask. I doubt
exactly. So what you say? So the answer to this question is, hey, Chief, looking good. Chief.
Yeah, see, looking good.
Looking good, Chief.
Yeah, see, she was. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a lot out of here. That's a lot coming out of this lady here.
Hey, Chief.
Yeah. Scenario 3. Brittany has a mixed European background and now lives in the States with her cousins. She is so surprised with the prison population here and wants to know if there's a reason blacks make up the majority of it. Is this due to white privilege? Or are certain people prone to more crime?
Oh, God, Lee. Jesus. That's a rough question, because I'm sure that there are some people who believe that by just being a black and brown person that we somehow have an affinity for crime. Yeah, just because...
criminal DNA or something.
Yes, exactly.
Something in the brain.
Well, I think, what was it that Hillary Clinton called super predators? Yeah, thank you for that. That was excellent.
Yes, it was.
Very civilized approach to dealing with crime.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief, looking good.
Yeah, really.
Looking good, Chief.
That's when, her husband was chief at that time.
Yeah, looking good, Chief.
Her husband literally was chief, so.
Yep, and that really served us well. But, I think what she probably is not going to understand by just coming over to the States is that prison is a mostly privatized system now. So it's beneficial for them to lock us up and put as many of us, and us, I mean by people generally.
Yeah, just people in general.
Prison. However, when you do look at the stats of how criminal sentencing works, black and brown people do suffer more, right? A white person who commits the exact same crime as a black or brown person, but particularly white to black scenario, the black person typically has a longer sentencing, a more severe sentencing. Crazy. They've done it over and over and over. It's not just one time, or this just happened in Kentucky. No boom booms.
That seems like white privilege to me.
Yes. That is one of the elements of why white privilege actually is documentable. Yeah, when we are not treated the same when we do the same, that's a problem, right? So, she is, what I would suggest is she have conversations with people, right? Like, do her research. Don't just assume by just being in this country that we being people of color are just, worser people, or that we are somehow, out to just commit crime. Because like you mentioned earlier, what people don't understand about people who commit crime is that there's usually a back end story, right?
Yeah. Sometimes, it's not for fun.
Sometimes it is for fun.
Yeah,
sometimes people are messing up, but again,
but there's some
mental health issues, right? You can, we don't know. We definitely are a population that does not get enough mental health care.
Well, yeah, definitely that can be an issue.
Right? And then again, poverty drives people. desperation drives bad behavior. Like it is what it is. If you want to reduce crime, then you have to give back and increase wealth and prosperity in a community. If you refuse to do it, then you cannot ask people to behave better when the society they're living in won't behave better to them. Like, and there's enough wealth in this country that it can be distributed. It can be shared, in a more appropriate way. Shout out to Andrew Yang running for president, who says, right, that $1,000 dividend that we would all get for just being a human being in America, between, I think, the ages of 18 and 65 is his proposal. You know what that would do for some people? $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
What that would do, that would literally could reduce homelessness by, I'm sure, more than 10%. Like, that, I know I could benefit from having an extra $1,000 a month, so, there's a lot of factors that go into what puts someone in prison. And then there's also people who have been now criminalized for falsifying documents and setting people up to put us in prison. They just had an agenda to put black men in prison. So there are a lot of systems in place that are working against the black male, unfortunately, and black and brown people in this country. So I think that people need to take a step back and have a little bit more compassion and then get some understanding of what the hell's going on, because it's really scary. It's one of the number one reasons why the scariest thing for black men right now is just dying by the police. Like, you guys are more likely to die by the police by, like, I think a lot more than other things.
I thought you were going to say than other Americans.
Well, other Americans, but specifically, that's like an actual threat to your life now. Like,
really? Wow.
You
think that? Man.
Yeah, because there's so many that are dying just every day, unarmed. Just, that's
I didn't think it was that many, actually, because white people will claim that there's only a few.
Yeah, so our media does a really good job of showing every time we commit crime, we being people of color, but then not showing the crime committed by white people, the crime.
So you're saying some of it's unreported and some of it's just
we've talked
downplayed?
About the media too, that is earlier on in our episodes. That,
we know the media covers what they want to cover and they want to tell their narrative.
There's white privilege and there's bias in media. And so there has to be an equaling playing field with that. And so I think that's on, actually, you can't, right, that's on us as people of color,
especially now with social media
that showcases
and the internet,
the power of what it means to be a positive black and brown person in this country.
It's not a good excuse anymore, because now we have social media and the internet. We can create our
own networks, we can create our own content and tune into what feeds your soul. And it doesn't feed me to constantly read about rapists and murderers.
That's why it's better not to watch the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Because that's where they go in. They go hard. Even more than on the morning, like, mainstream media. Yeah. The evenings are when they go in. They're like, all bets are off. Yeah. Your kids are in bed.
Yeah, they lose their minds.
We're going to go and we're going to do a whole attack on some people.
But you know what I wish they would do? I wish they would show every black and brown girl that went missing for that day. Because they never get shown on the news. Yet somehow we're the highest rate of people that are somehow, getting lost and killed and sucked into the sex industry. But no one wants to talk about that. They never want to talk about us. Mm-hmm. That pisses me off as a woman of color. It breaks my heart that my sisters are somehow just going missing as if they never mattered. Like, no one cares.
That's a white privilege. You don't have to worry about that as a white person. You have less chance of going missing.
Well, of course, it's, it's interesting now with white privilege, the opiate crisis. Right now, it's an opiate crisis. What happened when crack was around and when all the black and brown people, it was a phenomenon that was just,
it was just something you made fun of. They didn't care, though.
But now with opiate addiction,
it's not funny, right?
Crisis.
People make jokes, but
why? Because more white children are dying from it than ever before, and so now it's a crisis.
Yeah, then it becomes a problem, even though it's just as harmful as a drug.
It was just as we had a crisis when we had crack addiction and heroin addiction, yet somehow it wasn't a crisis because it was, look at the color of the people that were affected mostly. Yeah. Rough stuff, guys. But there is so much more that we could talk about on this.
And guess what would have been the easiest thing for Brittany to do? She could just watch the 13th.
True.
Then she'd be like, oh, you know what?
True, Brittany.
Oh, now I see what's going on.
Shout out to Ava DuVernay.
Yeah, she actually has an answer to that question. She answered that question pretty nicely, actually. So I think that's
another great documentary.
Yeah. Oh, if you just want to see what's going on and you don't want to do the hard work yourself, you can just look at the documentary. She'll mention the facts to you. So
abso-freaking-lutely.
Everything is explained in that.
I think we wrapped this up with a pretty nice white and black bow, guys. So now that we're at that time again, it is coming to the end of our 109th episode of
WokeNFree.
Yep. That is not going on anyone's opera channel anytime soon.
That seemed like a very spiritual kind of sound.
Maybe so we're feeling like our ancestral slave narrative.
I don't know. I think we
wanted to do a black spiritual.
I think we were calling further back into history, even further back, when we had just Pangea.
No one knows what that is, Khalil.
The
I
one
don't
continent?
think I've heard of that since I was like in 8th grade.
Oh, you haven't heard of the one continent?
I have, but it's been quite a many years.
I think that's what we're calling upon. Like, we're calling upon, like, the first, like, beings ever.
Humanoids.
On Earth. On Earth, at least, yeah. Not the aliens that created us, but the beings.
Oh, now you're trying to drop some knowledge.
Oh, no, there's aliens never came here, though.
Okay.
That's something else.
Let's not have people completely discount the entire episode right now.
Okay, yeah. We're talking about privilege here.
Yes. Human privilege, specifically white privilege.
Human appearing privilege.
Human presenting.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh gosh, this was quite the episode reviewing Hello Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea. The Chelsea Handler new Netflix documentary about white privilege. Will we leave you hanging for what our next episode will be about? Drumroll, please.
On our next episode, we will be discussing the top 10 mispronounced words. Make sure you follow us on social media to follow along in the conversation, and make sure you tune in next week for WokeNFree Wednesday. To join the conversation at WokeNFree.com.
If you want to be a guest on the show, please submit a topic for an upcoming episode, or share how you feel about any of the episodes that you've listened to on our Contact Us page at WokeNFree.com. That is WokenFree.com. If you want to holler at us on social media, you can hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and even YouTube at WokenFree. And then for sponsorship stuff, you heard the ad. You all know what you need to do. Contact us page at WokenFree.com.
If you didn't already subscribe, please do. Share the episode, and make sure you come back to join the conversation every Wednesday for WokenFree Wednesdays. Remember, WokenFree is more than a podcast. It is a way of life. Until next time.